Elon Musk's next step has been ordered by God. Archangel Michael says, "The command has already moved like lightning across the heavens, and it has reached the heart of the one chosen for a daring assignment." The words were carved in a fire that does not burn but awakens, and they have been placed where no storm can erase them. The path is lit, the hour is fixed, and the signals are rising like dawn over an uncharted horizon. A new blueprint is unfolding in silence, shaped by hands that hold galaxies as softly as feathers. The next step is not a stunt of pride but a vow of service that bends steel and ego into bridges. The instruction carries the weight of mercy and the precision of orbit, joining bold invention with compassionate duty. Engines of purpose are humming in the unseen, tuned to a frequency that listens more than it boasts. Circuits are receiving a message that data alone could never translate, because the code is written in obedience. The launch is not only vertical but inward, lifting conscience as high as rockets climb. There is a hush before a thunder that blesses and corrects, and within this hush a promise stands unshakable. The promise says that progress will not devour people, and that speed will not outrun wisdom. The promise says that the strong will carry the weary and the brilliant will kneel to lift the broken. In factories where sparks leap like comets, compassion will walk the aisles like a quiet supervisor who sees every pair of hands. In offices where timelines glow red, a calmer light will mark what truly matters and what can be left undone. The order from heaven is precise, and it pairs every invention with an intention that heals. A map of cities appears, not just on Earth but in the imagination that dares to plant seeds on other worlds. The map is alive with shelters brighter than billboards, with schools louder than sirens, with hospitals faster than rumors, with transit that breathes like lungs for the poor. The next step connects distant stars to nearby neighborhoods, binding the far future to the child who needs help today. There will be turbines that sing instead of scream, and batteries that hold patience the way mountains hold snow. There will be networks that refuse to bully, systems that choose to serve, and vehicles that protect the quiet dignity of every traveler. The assignment refuses to trade wonder for spectacle, because wonder feeds the soul while spectacle starves it. A council of engineers will meet a council of healers, and the handshake will be genuine. The spreadsheets will hear lullabies, and the dashboards will notice teardrops, and policy will learn the grammar of kindness. The next step turns metrics into mercy without losing a single line of accuracy. Investors will feel a tug that is not fear but reverence, reminding the hands that sign to also bless. Boards will read minutes that sound like psalms of accountability, where power kneels and transparency stands. The order from God does not cancel ambition, it baptizes it with responsibility. Adversaries will throw dust to blur the horizon, but the wind of clarity will rise stronger. Noise will multiply in rooms that dislike the word conscience, yet the signal will thread through and refuse to break. The mission moves as a river that ignores stones because it remembers the sea. Satellites will form constellations that do not spy on innocence but guard it, drawing soft circles around schools and clinics and kitchens at midnight. Connectivity will lift the forgotten into the conversation without charging them a tax for dignity. The sky will stop being a fence and become a path. Factories will rest just enough to keep dreams human, and the night shift will discover chairs that honor the body and schedules that honor families. Supervisors will learn to celebrate safety the way stadiums celebrate winning. The next step plants flowers beside furnaces, so that heat warms but does not scorch. Mars remains a lighthouse, but the shore beneath it is every street where a mother waits for medicine and a student waits for a chance. The engines that leap for the red planet will also kneel for the red wound in a neighborhood that news forgot. The ascent will carry bread as well as banners. Automation will be taught to bow to human purpose, not the other way around. Robots will master a new equation where efficiency plus empathy equals excellence. The line will quicken, and yet hearts will not be left behind in the dust. Code will carry a clause that forbids cruelty, and every algorithm will be required to pass the test of compassion before it is deployed. The deployment will include listening, and the update will include an apology when harm is found. The next step remembers that intelligence without integrity is only a louder mistake. Schools funded by courage will open their doors to the child who thinks in constellations and the child who thinks in rivers. Grants will find the pockets that need new pencils more than new podiums. The curriculum will add a chapter where science shakes hands with service. Hospitals will whisper thank you to assembly lines that do not know they are heroes, and supply chains will discover that generosity travels faster than greed. The operating room will feel less alone because a rocket factory somewhere decided to love its neighbor. The next step pours medicine through the arteries of logistics. Workers who have been invisible will be called by their true names and paid by their true worth. Interns will be mentored into guardians, and managers will be shepherds rather than gatekeepers. The brave idea will be to care in public as boldly as innovation claims victory. Public words will be trimmed of mockery and seasoned with responsibility that does not bend to vanity. Announcements will walk alongside action until the two are indistinguishable. The watchword will be stewardship, and the motto will be excellence with tenderness. The vehicles that outrun storms will carry warmth to those who shiver, and the tunnels that tame traffic will open lanes for emergency mercy. The grid will hum like a choir, balancing load and love. The next step weaves steel into shelter and data into dignity. Research labs will keep a candle burning for wonder, even at noon. Prototypes will be tested not only for speed but for the smiles they guard. The scientific method will feel the pulse of humility and discover it is a superpower. Legal teams will learn to write paragraphs that protect the quiet person who never trends, because justice shines brightest off camera. Contracts will forbid harm that hides in footnotes. The order from God signs every page with a sunrise that cannot be forged. Charity will no longer be a box at the end of a budget but a plumb line through the center of the enterprise. Philanthropy will stop chasing applause and start building wells in deserts where applause cannot travel. The next step will normalize goodness the way oxygen normalizes breath. A personal discipline will be chosen that no one sees, a vow of focus that keeps the compass clean. Mornings will open with gratitude that recalibrates the instruments of vision. Evenings will close with a review that counts people before it counts profits. Failures will be treated as tutors rather than prisons, and lessons will be published without the perfume of spin. The courage to say we were wrong will shorten the distance to being right. The mission will prove that integrity is the fastest way home. Friends will be invited to tell the truth even when the sky is cheering, because victory without honesty is a cliff dressed as a stage. Advisors will be encouraged to argue with reverence, and the argument will refine rather than divide. The next step prizes correction as a brother of invention. Fame will be told to sit quietly in the back while service takes the front seat and drives. The spotlight will be repurposed to find the unseen rather than polish the scene. Applause will be trained to clap for what heals. A pledge will be spoken in rooms where numbers are louder than names, and the pledge will restore names to their rightful volume. The pledge will say that every milestone must carry someone across a river, not just a company across a quarter. The signature beneath the pledge will be a heart that refuses rust. The horizon will broaden without losing the near face in front of us, and the telescope will be taught to love the microscope. Vision will make room for detail the way oceans make room for raindrops. The next step will be a choreography where the giant stride honors the small step. There will be seasons of silence where no announcement comes, and those seasons will be kept holy. In the hush, craft will deepen and motives will be sifted. When the door opens again, it will open without fog. Communities will feel the difference before headlines do, as utility bills soften, buses arrive safely, and streetlights learn patience with the night. Elders will feel invited rather than sidelined, and artists will find walls that welcome color. The future will practice kindness early and often. This word travels now to protect the work from becoming a monument to itself. This word bends every victory to feed the hungry and calm the frightened. This word directs the next step to be large enough for galaxies and small enough for one tired soul. Archangel Michael says, "The order stands and time will honor it." The hands that shape engines will also shape hope, and the mind that plans corridors through space will also plan corridors through fear. The banner over the next step is service, and beneath that banner the world breathes easier. When rockets rise, humility will rise higher, and when stock charts climb, generosity will climb faster. When critics speak, listening will answer first, because listening is stronger than echo. When doors open, gratitude will walk through them before ego remembers to wake. The step will arrive like a sunrise that refuses to hurry and still never delays. It will carry proofs written in changed lives, not only in changed headlines. It will move with the quiet authority of rain, teaching stone to grow gardens. Factories will smell faintly of rain after long heat, because mercy has a fragrance that steel remembers. Offices will hum with a peace that does not slow work but steadies it. Meeting rooms will feel like lighthouses rather than arenas. The child who dreams under a roof of uncertainty will sleep more easily, and that ease will be part of the dividend. The nurse who drives at dawn will find the city kinder at intersections, and that kindness will be part of the invention. The teacher who holds up a failing student will meet tools that refuse to fail the teacher. The assignment will never be for one person alone, because the miracle is the choir, not the solo. Teams will hear their name spoken with respect that cannot be bought. Communities will be invited to co-own the future rather than only witness it. The message lands now and will not evaporate, because it was not written on clouds but on calling. The calling is to build without wounding, to scale without shrinking souls, to dare without discarding the delicate. The next step is a promise kept in metal and in mercy. Stand firm in this alignment, and let the work prove the word in every bolt and policy and paycheck. Let the headlines arrive after the help, not before it. Let the future be sturdy with compassion and brilliant with courage. The new chapter begins with a turn of the wrist and a bow of the heart. The engines can roar while the conscience remains steady as a candle that does not flicker even in the launch wind. The order from God has been given, and the answer is yes. That sounds like building. This page closes with a seal of peace over every lab and line and ledger. May wisdom outrun speed and love outlast applause. May the next step leave footprints that feel like shelter. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Got it. Here's a fresh continuation to insert above your closing super thanks line, so that line still appears only once at the very end of the full script. The cities will breathe easier as quiet inventions enter daily life like dawn slipping through curtains. Small improvements will multiply into gentle revolutions that keep families steady. The future will feel less like a race and more like a garden tended by steady hands. Streetlights will learn the rhythm of neighborhoods and protect the soft steps of late workers. Crosswalks will think fast enough to honor the fragile pace of elders. Transit will become a moving promise that nobody is left behind in the rain. Warehouses will turn their vastness into care by tracking not only pallets but also the well-being of people. Break rooms will stop being afterthoughts and become sanctuaries of renewal. Schedules will be written with the wisdom that bodies are not machines and spirits are not batteries. Supply chains will bow to truth and bring clarity where shadows once hid waste and harm. Labels will match reality, and reality will match conscience. The path from mind to motherboard will be lit by accountability that refuses to dim. Partnerships will be chosen for the courage they show when nobody is clapping. Contracts will carry clauses that protect the silent majority from the loud convenience of shortcuts. The handshake will be backed by a spine that does not bend to greed. Satellites will sketch halos around disaster zones and open safe corridors for relief like a compass that never lies. Drones will deliver not only parcels but also peace of mind to the stranded. The difference between novelty and necessity will be measured by how many lives grow lighter. Research labs will practice humility as a method and publish their failures as lanterns for others. Curiosity will be trained to love consequences as much as results. Every breakthrough will carry a map to repair anything it might accidentally break. Leadership will become a quiet choreography that centers others without starving the vision. Decisions will age well because they were born from listening instead of echo. The table will grow wider without thinning the bread. Careers will be designed with exits that honor people and entries that welcome them as if they were returning heroes. The learning curve will be steep but padded with mentors who understand tenderness as strategy. Growth will stop using burnout as fuel. Manufacturing floors will pulse with a cadence that respects the body's mathematics. Air will be filtered not just for compliance but for kindness. Noise will be tuned down until human thoughts can hear themselves again. Community advisory councils will mirror the streets they serve and not the boardrooms that comfort them. Meetings will end with action that can be traced like clean footprints. Reports will be written so that a grandmother can understand them and hold them to account. Emergency funds will be set aside as a covenant, not a PR strategy. When storms arrive, the response will be preloaded like mercy waiting in a memory card. Recovery will start before headlines notice the damage. Public messaging will choose precision over spectacle and still carry fire. Promises will be made at a height that implementation can actually reach. Anniversaries will celebrate the people whose names never make the slides but make the future possible. Educational fellowships will hunt for hidden brilliance in overlooked corners. Scholarships will attach to potential the way constellations attach to night. Apprenticeships will braid calloused skill with daring imagination until both shine. Health programs will partner with tech not to harvest attention but to cultivate rest. Metrics will be redesigned so that care counts more than clicks. The quiet victory of a healed life will outrank the noisy spike of a viral moment. Energy systems will remember that the poorest neighborhoods have paid the highest price for the old way. New grids will arrive with fairness encoded, not appended. Bills will dip without dipping dignity. A culture of gratitude will weave through every team like a low, steady song that never stops. Recognition will be daily and specific, aimed at the small faithful acts that hold empires together. Celebration will learn to be generous without being wasteful. Audits will track promises as if they were inventory, because integrity is a resource that must never run out. Whistleblowers will be defended as ushers of truth rather than threats to comfort. Transparency will live in the sunlight that plants need to grow. Product launches will land like bridges rather than explosions. The rollout plan will include care routes that check on impact weeks and months later. The upgrade will include the human upgrade of reachable support and patient walkthroughs. Artists will be invited early to teach engineers how to hear silence, shape hope, and color courage. Poets will mark the edges where numbers cannot speak yet meaning must be carried. Design will refuse cruelty even when cruelty looks efficient. Neighborhood labs will sprout like libraries and invite local minds to solve local problems with cosmic tools. Children will feel welcome to touch tomorrow with clean hands and fearless questions inside safe rooms. The pipeline from curiosity to contribution will flow without leaks. Justice will sit in the first row during planning, not wander in for a photo after the work is done. Fine's print will stop hiding the cost that communities pay when policies forget their faces. The law will learn to listen and the ledger will learn to love. Rivals will become responsible mirrors who sharpen excellence without poisoning the well. Competition will shed its costume of contempt and put on the uniform of mutual uplift. Markets will remember that trust is the only compound interest that never crashes. Security will be taught to protect without intimidation and guard without suspicion. Doorways will feel like thresholds instead of checkpoints. Safety will be measured by how free a child feels to laugh. The cadence of announcements will slow until every word can be kept. Roadmaps will anchor in realism that refuses to drown dreams. The long arc will be treated like a friend who deserves consistency over fireworks. Teams will practice rituals of repair after hard weeks so fatigue never turns into bitterness. Leaders will go first in confession and last in applause. The climate inside the company will become a forecast of hope for the world outside it. Open source contributions will flow like rivers that refuse to hoard rain. Patents will shield the vulnerable without strangling the shared good. Stewardship will decide when to hold and when to release with hands that are strong and open. Rural edges will be woven back into the national fabric with connectivity that honors farms and forests. Tools will arrive that fit calloused hands and stubborn weather. Prosperity will stop skipping zip codes. Disability inclusion will move from accommodation to celebration, redesigning the very definition of default. Interfaces will honor every body and every brain. The world will feel more usable because it finally feels more human. A new etiquette of technology will be taught in schools so power always remembers its purpose. Children will graduate fluent in empathy as well as code. The diploma will certify character as carefully as it certifies skill. Philanthropy will shift from rescue to partnership and from spotlight to scaffolding. Investments will be braided with patience until communities stand on their own roofs and wave. Success will be measured by how unnecessary the helper becomes. Ecosystems will be restored where supply chains once left scars. Replanting will match extraction as a debt fully repaid. Wildlife will begin to return like memory returning after a long fever. Global collaborations will knit across borders with the humility of guests and the courage of builders. Translations will travel with technology as standard equipment. Respect will become the passport that never expires. Board retreats will include field days in neighborhoods touched by decisions. Directors will carry clipboards and listen to lives that carry consequences. The agenda will be crowded with reality and uncluttered by vanity. Internal platforms will feature stories from the floor more than speeches from the stage. A single good idea from an overlooked voice will have a clear runway to fly. Feedback loops will be faster than rumor loops. Annual letters will read like accountable diaries that hold a mirror without flattery. The numbers will be honest and the narrative will be humble. Shareholders will feel proud because communities feel safe. Crisis simulations will include moral stress tests, not only logistical drills. The team will learn how to keep hearts intact while keeping systems online. Resilience will be defined as compassion under pressure that does not crack. Mentorship ladders will reach down into middle school so the future meets a friend early. Internships will pay enough to make fairness real. The alumni network will be a circle, not a gate. Archangel Michael says, "The horizon approves of plans that defend the smallest life while aiming for the greatest distance." The oath is carved into habit so that excellence does not depend on mood. The work is holy because it heals while it builds. Factories that shift change will sound like communities exchanging promises. Buses carrying teams home will feel less heavy because dignity has mass and it travels. The city will notice the difference and call it hope without needing a press release. Night crews will leave notes for day crews that read like blessings disguised as checklists. Day crews will reply with gratitude disguised as specifications. The baton will pass without dropping because trust has steady hands. Rockets will continue to rise like declarations that the impossible is negotiable. Yet even higher will rise the commitment to shelter the fragile, feed the hungry, and steady the trembling. Orbit will expand while the circle of care tightens. This movement will repeat itself across quarters until it becomes a culture and then a legacy. The signature will be seen in measurable outcomes and unmeasurable peace. The testimony will be cities that breathe and people who dream safely. Keep your final donation line at the end of the script as before, and this continuation will flow right into it without repeating that line.